This week we're focusing on courage.
Courage is the cornerstone of action.
Anyone can look fancy and talk about courage from a quote. But what about really showing it?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does it look like?
That reminds me of, what does it look like? What does it mean? What does it feel like? Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage.
That is such a beautiful quote. We're looking for those who have obviously had to act with great courage in their lives, and the way that they summed it down to meme length for us. And I think that quote speaks so greatly because it talks about your ability to walk through fear actually sets the limit on your life and dreams.
Otherwise, you will keep yourself small.
You'll keep yourself small. Because you think you can't handle the fear, which is keeping yourself small even in your head. Yeah. So it's going to keep your life small. And to be able to actually act with great courage. That quote specifically comes from a woman who wildly was brave in sharing her private life just in her journals, like just sharing her private life, period. And then turned it into something public that became her form of actual expression and uplifting the world. Think of the levels of courage to pass through, to realize that her life could have stayed her own private world. And the limit that would have created on her versus everything she achieved by being willing to share her deepest, her most innermost thoughts.
And standing up for what you believe in will either keep you suppressed, or it will expand your life and opportunities.
Now, how does standing for what you believe keep your life suppressed?
You're not expanding. You're just accepting the position you're in. You're not going to do anything about it. This is just where I am. Okay.
Content. But
this
that's
is
not
all
contentedness. That's almost settling.
Lethargy.
Apathy. Ooh, is apathy the anti-courage?
Yes.
Normally we think the opposite of courage is what? Weakness. Being meek, absolutely. But I think you're right. It's apathy.
Because, as C.S. Lewis said, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. As soon as you're going to actually say you have those values, you have to have courage if you're going to test them. Otherwise, you're just going to keep them to yourself, and that's it.
Well, let's be honest. We all have bathroom mirror courage. We all have the courage of what we're going to say and how we're going to go about it and who we're going to be. And then we go out in the world, and what happens? Slightly different metaphors, but yes. A lack of ability to act in the way that we would really love to. Our ideal self. And I think that's what C.S. Lewis was pointing at, that without the ability to walk through courage, you're not going to be able to be honest. You're not going to be someone who could act with integrity in any scenario because you'll collapse.
Then do you have any integrity if you didn't stand up for it?
It's a good question. Can you have an intention of integrity but not have the courage to fulfill it? I think so.
Can you have values that you never actually test or actually act on? Because you're afraid of something else?
There's another great quote that I saw about courage that said it's actually the judgment that what's on the other side of the fear is more important than the fear itself. And isn't that it? Like if you're coddling your fear more, you do become someone else by moving through it. There is something you're going to find on the other side of that fear. And I think sometimes we're afraid of becoming that more evolved self.
You're splitting yourself and not addressing it.
What do you mean?
If you have all these values, but you don't ever have the courage to do them, you will split yourself and you will be at odds with yourself.
Definitely.
That's what I am.
I get that.
Yeah.
You're the talker.
Today, you're a wise one who's never left the building.
That's right.
Your wisdom has never left the mountaintop.
You gotta walk the walk. Even Buddha, the famous story of Buddha is that he was born to a very rich man who coddled him and kept him within the walls, and he never even got to see suffering in its lightest form. And then he said, look, Daddy-O, I gotta hit the road. I need some experiential knowledge. And that alone takes so much courage.
It did. He had just a perfectly tranquil life. But he had the courage to, one, stand up to said parent.
Well, it didn't mean anything.
No.
When things are given to us without us actually having to have the virtues to acquire them ourselves in the world, it didn't take courage.
No.
I don't know what it takes to inherit millions, but
Apathy.
in order to feel excited about it, something has to happen through the process where you feel involved in its creation. And I think that's what that quote is getting at too. Like, your life will expand or shrink with your ability to think that you
can
deserve. And I think innately we know when we can't act with courage, we don't feel so deserving.
No, because you split yourself. And you know that other self would have done it better. The courage one. The courageous one would have done it better.
Don't you just talk yourself into not taking action as courage then?
No. That's accepting apathy with open arms. Yeah.
So what is the new action of courage? Well, apathy to courage, how does one get across that bridge?
That clarity we spoke about earlier. Realizing that is what you want, and that it is better, and that it is important to you, and that you want it.
And that you are choosing the weaker path by not doing it.
Yeah.
I think we want to placate ourselves a lot and say, like, it's okay. And until you're willing to get honest with yourself about where you are, you can't decide where you want to go. This sweatshirt is actually my high school sweatshirt. I think it's from Powder Puff. The juniors beat the seniors that year. Big year. I think it was the first time in school history, or a long time anyway. Probably not.
Might as well have been.
Might as well have been. Yeah, in a couple years anyway. Which in high school is...
That's it. That's all of it. It's only a few years.
And I've been thinking about the types of courage that we've had to access throughout our lives to get to where we are.